Happy Thursday and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Rocketeer Minute, where each and every day, Monday through Friday, we go over 1 minute of the greatest adventure movie Walt Disney's ever made, the 1991 Joe Johnston-directed feature, The Rocketeer. I'm one of your hosts, Jim O'Kane of TVDads.com.
And I'm Hal Bryan, an airplane nerd from the Experimental Aircraft Association here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And Jim, as we're recording this, I am... We're a little bit out of sync here, but I'm just now sort of starting to recover from our big fly-in and convention, and what a crazy week that was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, just following you on Facebook was astonishing. The things that were going on around you, it was wow. It was its own little movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But a great week, and was thrilled to catch up with a few listeners of ours out there. What a great joy that was. So good stuff.
We did have a hug Hal day out there.
We did, and it was so popular it lasted through at least Monday. So
and it's still on. If you bump into Hal anywhere and you just recognize him, don't point him out if he's got the helmet on. But
right.
If he doesn't have the helmet, just go up, give him a big hug, and he'll know that you're a fan.
Give me a hug. Take help yourself to my wallet. Whatever you like.
He's an easygoing guy, but don't worry. So we are finally up to minute 74 here, deep in the Rocketeer, and this particular minute has an interesting uniqueness in that there is absolutely no dialogue for the entire minute. Hard to believe, but it
is amazing when you realize how much the dialogue is important to the rest of the story. And Jim, as you're the one who types up the summaries, you know better than just about anybody as you slice this minute by minute. This is the only one you've encountered so far, right? Yeah,
this is the only one as far as I've seen in the entire movie that there is no. Well, I mean, until we get to the end credits.
Sure,
but even that has captioning. So I mean, it does forward the story. We just see Jenny, who had woken up from her chloroform dream,
right? Which we know a little bit more about now.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Delemba. That was a nice discussion yesterday.
Yes, indeed.
But we do get to watch her wandering around. She seems to have shaken it off quite well. She stands up, good posture. My grandmother would be proud. She always told all of my cousins, stand up straight, and she does a great job, shoulders back and chin up. We watched Jenny get up out of that beautiful king-size bed. As I was watching this minute, the thing that crossed my mind was mattresses. I was wondering, it's like, how long have people been sleeping on mattresses? And of course, there's always a big story involved. So I went out and looked it up and went far beyond Wikipedia, although Wikipedia did have some pretty good entries for it. The mattress, as we know it, as a place where people would sleep at night, came back to the Western world after the Crusades. This was a popular thing in the Middle East. Putting down cushions has always been something like the Bedouins did and stuff. And after the Crusades, all those knights came back, dragging their mattresses behind them, and introduced them to the world of the West, where previously people had done things like just sleep on the floor or sleep on a shelf. That was like the common thing to do. The idea of sleeping on something soft was unusual. We've had them in the Western world since about the 1400s. They've grown up more with upholstery and things like that in ways of supporting, and now you have sleep numbers and Posturepedics and all that other jazz. But generally the modern bed as we know it has been around since, the typical inner spring bed has been around since about the 1880s.
It makes me wonder, did people, prior to that point, did people have better backs? Or, was back pain as much of a thing? It certainly, I can't imagine just going to bed tonight and just laying down on the floor. That just sounds dreadful, but depending on what you're used to and what's normal.
If that's how you go, I'm sure you, as in your law enforcement days, I know I have worked third shift, and after you work a couple of third shifts, you find you can sleep anywhere in any position.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I'm thinking of a couple of places I fell asleep, and we didn't need to go that route, but.
But thank goodness we live in the modern age where you can have everything such as what's the most common one is known as the Bonnell coil. That's the kind that are they originally came out of buggy seats in coaches and stage coaches, just to take the shock out of it. The idea of putting these coils into a box, which is now we use there's two levels. We have the box spring, which is mostly to absorb the general shaking, and then the mattress coil, which is an upholstered spring. So basically the mattress cover is just enough to keep you from feeling the springs underneath, which deaden the motion of bodies on top of the bed. and distributes the weight easier. And there's all kinds of science to it. I sometimes wonder when you're watching all these commercials or going to mattress stores and things like that, how much is science and how much is, oh, that sounds cute. Maybe they'll believe this.
Right. Yes, the juxtaposition of science and marketing.
Yeah.
And an unholy alliance.
The other thing that I found out is that a lot of, you have all these different names for different companies of Sealy. There's Sealy Posturepedics, there's Tempur-Pedic. Well, Sealy Posturepedic was bought by Tempur-Pedic about 20 years ago.
No, really?
Yeah, so they're it's the same company. Spring Air went out of business and sold their name, and now a bunch of different companies make the same Spring Air package. Most of the time, there is apparently some kind of a cartel of mattress companies that there's only like 2 or 3 mattress company makers in the world, and they just put a bunch of different labels of companies that went bankrupt that they bought up their names. So we're probably all sleeping on the same mattress with just some, either you get a sponge or you get a coil. That's about.
So only here on the Rocketeer Minute do we expose the ugly truth behind Big Mattress.
Big mattress, yeah. Big bed.
Big bed. Ooh, even better. Edit that so it sounds like I said that first. Would you, Jim?
I'll put that in. Extra reverb. Say big bed one more time.
Big bed.
Okay, we'll get some reverb. It'll sound great. And that's only in the first 2 seconds of this particular episode.
And here we thought that there wasn't much going on in this minute, Jim.
No. She's beautiful. Jenny's walking around. It's amazing that was a really great wrinkle-free gown that she had on. I mean, it was, gosh, it was like she ironed it every other step.
That's exactly right.
Gorgeous bit of satin wandering around. Every time I watch this movie, I still can't figure out what the upstairs of the Sinclair household looks like, because there's all different nooks and crannies. Maybe it's just because of what's that type of particular block that's on the walls? Is it masonry block or?
So it's concrete blocks, and so the Ennis house was one of 4 of Frank Lloyd Wright's houses that he called the textile block. And they were named because of the texture of the concrete block walls. It reminded people of brocade. Here in the Ennis house, that design is sort of a take on the old Greek key, but I think it's much more ornate, and there's many more levels to it. What strikes me as interesting is that this was this style. Was him experimenting with modular housing, and this was him trying to sort of. So number one, work with as he called it, the cheapest and ugliest thing in the building world, which is plain concrete. And then number 2, build something that was affordable, so to democratize custom built houses. And of course now, stuff like the Ennis house, the Millard house was another one. I'd have to look up the other 2. I will in a moment here. These are not, middle class. Anybody could walk up and just write a check and afford one of these masterpieces.
Yeah, but the elements of what would later be what he called his Usonian, US for United States.
Sure.
The Usonian style home where you have a central hearth, and then you have this idea of a multi-level. If you were going to use a multi-level home, he tended to, in his later years, try to stay with ranch houses. But when he was going with a multi-story house, he tried to have a thing called a loggia, which is kind of a balcony, so that it would add some drama to things. You'd come out of your bedrooms, there'd be a large loggia, like a balcony over your living room and dining room. And we'll see that in later minutes here as Jenny explores the home, that it gives you a more dramatic, theatrical look, that you have depth to your home. You come out in the morning and you look down and you have this gigantic, vaulted ceiling. And there's a lot of dynamism going on just from walking out of your bedroom into the hallway, into the loggia of the hallway. It's stunning. That the different works, the stained glass, all that lead. It's just
those stained glass panels, of course, are just classic Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah,
and it's interesting too. We've read I think since the very first time we've talked about the Ennis house, we've come back to it a couple of times, but we've read since then that the most, if not maybe all of these interiors were done on a set that was recreating the look inside. That recurring theme of those textile blocks is intriguing, and there's places online where you can buy reproductions of those panels. That particular design is sort of considered significant enough that you can go and buy it. It's not obviously not as a Rocketeer prop replica, but it's just an homage to the Ennis house.
Yeah, I've never seen that on like Flip or Flop that they what we really need is some Frank Lloyd Wright concrete blocks.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't think any Frank Lloyd Wright house that I've ever seen has bookshelves with secret panels and books as latches.
So let me ask you this: have you tried every book? Have you walked up to his bookshelves?
I sense a new sense of purpose now in visiting Frank Lloyd Wright house.
We're going to start traveling. There is, I've mentioned this before, there is a Frank Lloyd Wright house about a mile from me right now, a very modest little ranch. But every time I walk by, I just peer and stare and feel bad. But you just want to run up and ring the bell and just say, excuse me,
Well, I
see inside real quick, but
one state over from you in Minnesota, there is a new, or not new, it's a 1958 Frank Lloyd Wright house that has had one owner, and the owners have decided to sell.
Oh,
and
boy.
that's on for what is, to me, sounds like a piddling $1.3 million.
Really?
Yeah, and it's available somewhere in Minnesota. Of course, by the time people are hearing this, it's probably been snapped up.
Sure, but then again, Jim, that's about what we each pull down per episode of the Rocketeer.
Yeah, easily.
Round numbers.
All that Amazon cash.
Yes, exactly. Podcasting is nothing if not big bucks.
Yeah, ask Joe Johnson about that.
Yes, exactly. We love you, Joe.
We do love you, Joe.
Hello,
Anytime
Lisa.
you want to come on, we'll cut you in for half of everything we get out of Amazon. Don't worry. I'll get actually 60%. As soon as they get enough money together for the stamp, they'll send that check. So.
It's interesting. We're talking about the bookshelves. When we go to second 23, Jenny's peering through the stained glass. And number one, it's really giving a nice suggestion that she's sort of imprisoned here. It's this beautiful house, but these stark sort of gray walls that, high contrast noirish lighting is good. And now we're seeing her through this beautiful stained glass window, but it's got the suggestion of bars to it. And, she definitely has the look of a captive. And you see Neville Sinclair is back there very, very carefully replacing the book. And like you, I'm trying to figure out the layout here. He's, has he gone into his radio room at this point and he's closing it and reseating
that's how I think it is. I think what we're looking on is that loggia I was talking about, the long hallway. I think there's glass walls that you can't get through, which seems like another Frank Lloyd Wright thing. It's like, oh, you can't use that, but it looks nice. But yeah, I think what he had was he had the bookcase opened. He was inside of his little radio room, because in a later minute we'll notice what thing he's carried into that radio room. And so I think what he's doing, as you said, he's rearming the mechanism that makes the door open up when you pull on a certain book.
And it's an interesting peek at him. He doesn't know anybody's watching, where it's very sort of voyeuristic as we're sort of looking from Jenny's point of view. He's extremely fastidious about getting the book repositioned just so. Yeah. And that sort of shows.
Although I don't know how many people are in his house that he has to worry about making it secret.
That's a good question. You get the sense that he lives alone, but there's sort of a steady stream of female company.
That's, as we will see, unless he has very interesting hobbies, he does seem to have a large variety of left behind items. And I would also assume that he has like the gardener, the pool boy, the housemaids, and whoever is dumping in thousands of daylilies every single day in all those rooms.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's the daylilies. He's got. There's some florist in Southern California who's counting their blessings every day.
Yeah.
Another little bit of decor that we see. I don't know if this minute we get the best glimpse of it or not, and it's not something that I particularly focus on going frame by frame, but I know throughout his house there's at least one we see in this minute, and I think there's even another one. There's actually sort of oversized nudes on the wall.
Yeah, they're kind of not quite abstract, not quite Picasso, but kind of rather Rubenesque. They seem to be.
Well, yeah, although in this scene, I go back and forth, and again, I'm trying to not be a 12-year-old boy and sit here and really, really stare at this. But
it's for science, don't worry.
Yes, it's for science. It's second 38. It really looks to me like it could just be a black and white photo, which would surprise me a lot, given that it's Disney.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, I'm looking at, let's see, second 44. It looks rather almost Dali-esque in the color scheme. It has there's blues, there's peaches.
That's interesting. And maybe I'm just seeing it a little bit more desaturated, because I would have gone to bat from second 37, scrubbing ahead to 39 when she hits the mattress, that I was really thinking just an oversized black and white photo.
Yeah, if you look at second 45, you should be able to see like the pink salmons and the blues.
Oh yeah, we do get hints of that there, don't we?
Yeah, I'm amazed that I never noticed the gigantic mirror that is behind. I mean, it is, unless this is. The other thing is, it could be a picture window and it's a large reflection.
But that reflection is so crisp and clear, though. And the colors are so vivid. I think that is a mirror we're seeing there.
Okay, yeah, because that would be a rather awkward place to have a wide open picture window. It just depends. I guess It depends on what's backing up to it. If it's the side of the Hollywood Hills.
Sure, if it's a big view. Otherwise, no visible windows in this room other than the stained glass that's sort of looking out to interior spaces.
Other thing I was considering is that Jenny must be wearing some pretty tight shoes. If she was knocked out,
right,
dragged across the burning South Seas and thrown into a car, I would assume, she still manages to keep her high heels on. Very... She doesn't like the relaxed fit, I'll tell you that.
She's not ready to let her guard down, even unconscious.
Yeah, and there are three. Is that right? That there are 3 layers of pillows. It looks like there's a back pillow, then there's 2 large display pillows. Then she's parked herself as she's laying back on a smaller, like a throw pillow.
That's what it looks like to me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pillows on that bed. My wife has gotten into buying large these collection things where you have several pillows together, and I'm more of a 2 pillows on the bed kind of guy.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
I'm more of a start with 2 pillows, then when I'm done reading, lose one, and do my best from there.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm you make the bed in the morning and it's like I feel like I'm working in the pillow department at Penny's.
The pillow department.
A lot of stacking, not too dissimilar from this. Not satin, but just. Of course, she did put up with. I had a Star Wars, a queen size Star Wars bedspread that she put up with for over a year and a half. So
that's fantastic.
Equal time.
I, of course, had Star Wars sheets as a kid, and now I still have those originals from my childhood. And then, the woman I think of as my alternate mother, matriarch of a dear family. Eric Flint, the historian who joined us, his mother made me a lovely fleece Star Wars. I think of it as a blankie. Yes. Because it makes me feel like I'm 9, and I'm very pleased with that. So, listeners, how do you sleep? How many pillows do you use?
There's something to start the social media going.
Yes, exactly. Set the world afire.
My wife did actually let me have for 6 months. Well, at least they're still in the cycle. We just haven't gotten back to them yet. As I do have a queen size Venture Brothers pillows, Venture Brothers sheets, and she would always get upset because on her side of the bed there's a large drawing of Brock fighting a 6 foot tall cockroach, and she just does not like that at all. But it's it's the Venture Brothers, honey.
Yeah, I don't know how you get away with that.
This is what my wife, a grandmother, has to deal with. So
yes, exactly. One of my favorite throw pillows here on the Throw Pillow Minute is one I got from Disney not too long ago, and it's got this great, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the artist, and I'll remember it as soon as we go off the air. But wonderful, very very vintage and retro looking. So Tomorrowland poster and scene on one side with the TWA rocket and all that. And then the other side just has is just nothing but those great sort of googie starbursts.
Oh, yeah.
It's the coolest thing.
Was it Mary Blair?
I remember it being a male name.
Okay. So when I picture Disneyland artists, I think of Mary Blair. She did the beautiful tile work. If you go into the Contemporary Hotel, and she did all the artwork pretty much for It's a Small World, the general art design there. That's one.
Oh, excellent.
She's my go-to one when somebody says Disney artist, striking, that would be the one. Wow. Well, yeah, this would be interesting. I would be interested seeing on our social media what people sleep on, and what I'm still trying to find I'm still trying to find my queen size Rick and Morty, but I have to sell that part. It's difficult.
My queen size Rick and Morty.
Someday.
It's always interested me, speaking of sleeping, that as far as Neville here knows, Jenny hasn't been revived yet. She hasn't woken up yet.
Yeah.
We know she has. Now she's feigning unconsciousness, which is probably a smart move at this point.
Now he's bringing in some Courvoisier or something.
Yeah, bringing in some brandy, which I can't imagine anything I would want less after waking up from being chloroformed. Than some brandy.
Yeah, I mean, what does your tongue taste like after the brandy and after?
After the chloroform. It's been, licking the inside of a bottle of rubbing alcohol.
Just get me a glass of gasoline and we'll be fine. Yeah,
exactly. And nothing against brandy.
No. It's
brandy
nice,
in the right time and place is wonderful. But when you're first trying to come to and clear your head, that's. Maybe Neville doesn't want her to have a clear head.
Yeah,
Farrell could be. That was interesting. I found myself curious. I was reading just a little bit about brandy, and first of all, we have learned that based on your research into the world of mattresses, brandy came around roughly around that same time, that 15th century. That it really started to be popular. At least that's when the production was significant. And something I didn't know before was that one of the original ideas behind it was it was a tax dodge. So you start with wine, and it has a certain volume. When you distill it and make brandy, the volume is lessened, but the alcohol content stays the same, but you're taxed by volume. So you can get the same amount of alcohol, lesser volume, and ergo lesser taxes.
More kick per liter, I guess, would be it's a French thing, so I would assume it's metric.
Exactly, yes. And one of the things that also sort of jumped out at me was that when they would test the quality of the brandy, they'd put a little gunpowder in the bottom of a glass, which sounds like a terrific idea.
Yeah.
And then they would light the brandy with a match, burn off all the brandy, and then if they could still use the gunpowder, then it was considered good.
Wow.
So it was, I presume that would mean that the alcohol content was pure enough that there was whatever water or anything else that would sort of squelch the burning properties of the gunpowder.
I would think that burning brandy would ignite the gunpowder if it was that good.
That's what I think too. If it was like really, really good brandy, the gunpowder would go off. I will try this tonight, and then you watch the news tomorrow.
Report back, and we'll just watch for the breaking news out of Wisconsin.
Yes, and I'd like to go on record as saying that this is how I've always wanted to go. If the worst happens, if I die in a tragic exploding brandy
mishap,
yes, it's what I always expected would happen.
Apparently, maybe Neville has had previous experience with his little jugs of chloroform that he's carried around with him. Brandy's the perfect way out.
Yeah, it's maybe it's a bit of hair of the dog, I guess, is what works. Given as you've pointed out, given the sheer number of sort of women's clothing and lingerie and everything else he just happens to have on hand, clearly.
This is probably like Costco brandy. I mean, he probably just has the stuff planned by
exactly.
All occasions.
Somewhere in the front of the Ennis house, there's a revolving, beautifully done revolving stained glass door where the unfortunate young women go in and come out and go in and come out.
He did not have that brandy when he was resetting the book, so I'm assuming that there's some little alcove that he has. This is my reviving brandy.
Yes, I would expect that there's little alcoves and stashes everywhere in this house.
Here, only 6 years or 5 years after Prohibition, so it's had actually minimum of 4 years for brandy, so it's had time to. This is actually post-Prohibition brandy, so it's probably the good stuff finally.
Although I would not be surprised for somebody in Neville Sinclair's position, I bet you could probably get a drink in his house. At any time.
Yeah.
Prohibition
and
or not.
They weren't turning off the brandy making operations in in so this is
certainly not
any time in there. We will just leave Neville here with Jenny, and here he forgot his funnel, so he's gonna have to use a glass instead.
He's gonna have to wake her up.
Yes. So anyway, a nice silent moment for a minute, but we will continue tomorrow. We may be having a familiar someone tomorrow. We will find out. Things are still in process, so tune in tomorrow. We'll have a better clue on who's coming in tomorrow, or it might just be you and me, Hal. But we'll see as we finish up the week. If you'd like to continue and tell us what your particular bed sheets are like, or how many pillows you have to stack up just to get the bed. Actually, I'd also be interested in what time you make the bed. We have massive discussions in my house as to how long between making the bed, and I will just lay this out here. I know we're going a little long, but my belief in making a bed is at the moment you get out of bed, as early as possible, make the bed. That's my way of doing it, because it's kind of a safety thing that if my bed is made, I won't climb back into it. So
that's a good point. And it's funny for me, I believe in that same philosophy, not for that reason. For me, it's just making the bed means it's symbolic of sort of coming home to a house where things are sort of taken care of and it's done. Yeah. So philosophically, in my mind, I would make the bed as soon as I get out of it. Realistically, I tend to make the bed about 5 minutes before we climb into it. And so for that reason, I mean, pretty much every day of my life is a failure for that reason. But morally, I'm with you, sir.
I understand. My wife believes that the bed needs to be unmade for a while, like at least between getting out of bed and making a cup of coffee, and then going back into the bedroom to make the bed, because it needs some kind of like airing out.
Interesting.
Because apparently there's some hermetic property of cotton that I was unaware of until I I got married, and then I found out all these things. So
try sprinkling some gunpowder in the
that's
bed, and then that'll be a test of the quality of your sheets.
If you have brandy first thing in the morning, it doesn't matter to you anymore. So that's the way to go. So,
I wash my sheets in chloroform. So it's just that's what keeps me. That's what helps me sleep at night.
Insomnia free. Yes, absolutely. Wow. Well, let's hear about your mattress and bed spring stories, please, on our social media. You know where to find us. It's all the usual places. Twitter, you can find us at Rocketeer Minute. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Rocketeer Minute. We're there at the Rocketeer's Bulldog Cafe. Nice little clubhouse for you to chat with us. Find us at the big site, rocketeerminute.com. Find all the previous episodes there. You can go to Amazon and share in the filthy lucre that we get whenever somebody buys something. I keep waiting, but the check never comes. But you can pick up all things Rocketeer that Amazon is happy to sell you. We will return tomorrow with either somebody or nobody, but we will have no doubt an interesting extra minute here.
There will be at least two somebodies.
Yes, at least.
I mean, come on, Jim. But added together, we're kind of a big deal.
That's true. I think so. We're both half famous, so there you go.
Exactly.
But join us here tomorrow, and we'll finish out the week on the Rocketeer Minute. So until next time, over and out.